Podcast Love has been brought to you by Go Compare! You know how they are. They always do those crazy little ads every now and again for compare the marketplace, go compare this, get your
I
PPR.
try not to think about it for the sake of my sanity.
Yeah, exactly there. I can do a meerkat voice if you want me to. But I'm not going to because we're
That's a
actually
big if. That's a very big if.
Well, these are the unofficial sponsors of the BBFC MPAA podcast that we're probably going to be doing to close out this year for our episode that may be the last or may not be. I don't know. Well, hopefully, I won't get sued for it. It's about Christmas, the season to be jolly.
Well, 'tis the season.
Yep. Um, this could go either one or two ways. Talk about film and TV specials or songs that play on the radio. It runs the gamut, really. And we have our usual guest, Bobitron here, or Rob Bavister, and then me, Mark. So, yeah, I'm sure you've been hearing too many uses of Slade's. So here it is. Merry Christmas, and Mariah Carey's All I Want for It Is You.
No, I haven't so far, and I'm bloody thankful, but I'm dreading the moment I do start here. I've heard Slade's song just at the end of a certain film I'm going to talk about a bit later on, and I've heard the Wizard song as well one time when I was in the shop. So far, I haven't lost Whamageddon yet, so fingers crossed.
Fortunately, I had to hear it on my end multiple times than I needed to. Not really a George Michael's fan, anyways. I know he done that Fast Love song, but that's really it for me. Um, but as far as what we're concerned, my favorite, well, since we're talking about music, let's just get it off our heads. Hoax, Fairy Tale in New York. It's my favorite Christmas song, in case anyone asks. I can't listen to it because I start crying. It makes me nostalgic. But yeah, that I can't say I like that one to too many people because now people think it's offensive and homophobic. But,
Well, it is a little bit when you think about it.
well, yeah, it obviously has the line, "You scumbag, you maggot, you cheap lousy."
I did
I'll put
speak
in
to
the
one.
two and two together.
I did speak to one of my co-workers at my last place I worked, who happens to be gay, and he's actually said he wasn't bothered by it, and I don't think he was just saying that to make me feel better. He just said he just didn't think much about it. Maybe that's more a reflection of him. I don't know, but yeah, I still can't really bring myself to defend it and everything, but hey, that's just me.
I understand. He might assume you were a Tory or something because you can't see our faces here, but Rob in real life does look a little like Jason Statham, who, a bit of a hard guy. You wouldn't want to mess with, otherwise he might punch you up in the pub because you looked at his wife funny.
Oh, well, I don't like to give off that sort of impression. I just basically suffer male pattern baldness, so I had my head shaved off and just embrace it.
Well, we'll just keep it at that level, really. But he's a nice guy. He wouldn't harm a fly. He even has a bouquet of flowers just for you if you're lonely this Christmas. But enough dilly dally on my end. As far as I'm concerned, the Christmas podcast, it's not really a subject that raises alarm bells as far as ratings issues are concerned. But every now and again, it can pose a few problems here and there. I will say on my end, Christmas wise, the first ever sort of Christmas film I saw, I believe, was Muppets Christmas Carol, which is a U, standard U. This one's going to be more family friendly in tone than the other ones, but we will talk about more adult titles like Bad Santa and Office Christmas Party a little later on. But Muppets Christmas Carol, that's one I remember quite fondly because of some of the little jingles. But actually, my all-time favorite one is a TV special that aired on Channel 4 when it first launched around November, but it aired around Christmas called The Snowman. I'm
Oh
sure,
yeah, I've seen that plenty of times. Do you mean the animated one with the song "Walking in the Air"?
yep, that's the one from
I must
1982.
have seen that.
I,
I must have seen that so many times at my primary school growing up.
oh no, they played it at mine too, as alongside that other Raymond Briggs special, Father Christmas. But unfortunately, I can't watch it again because I start crying too much, and it's one of the few films. It's just too hard for me to watch anymore. Not because it's bad, but because it's a little too emotional and nostalgic for me. Yeah, I'm sure you probably have the same feelings too about a few films as well. I feel that
Well,
way
I mean that.
with the hands.
Well, I think every kid who grew up watching that film in question is a bit of a has a bit of an emotional attachment to it, nostalgically. Are we talk if we're talking about the first Christmas movie we've seen? I was about to say mine was probably Home Alone, but I don't. But I think I saw Gremlins before that. So and they count as Christmas movies, right?
Essentially, they do. I know Gremlins has a very interesting ratings history behind it.
With
Um,
both
and then Home
both
Alone is because it's set during the season. It just doesn't have the word Christmas on the title. But yeah,
we
I'll
don't
let
have
you
to
add
have
your thoughts.
we don't have to have Christmas in the title and everything. I mean, just like there's always debates about certain films, and we can imagine the one we're going to get to later on about whether or not it counts as a Christmas movie. It's just a movie set during Christmas. But obviously, I don't want to get ahead of myself there because there's plenty of time for that. But no, I mean, if Home Alone and Gremlins count as Christmas movies, then those two, I think Gremlins, will be the first one I likely have seen, other than some, Mickey Mouse or goofy Christmas movie or something, which I probably saw sometime, but I'm too young to remember. Uh, yeah, that's it. That's
Well, I know for all intents and purposes of BBFC policy, Gremlins has a very unusual history because of the 15 certificate it received, because they deemed it was too violent for a PG.
well, the
And
MPAA almost thought that. It was that and Temple of Doom that encouraged the creation of the PG-13 rating.
no, you are absolutely correct.
Well, everyone knows that.
Well, it was deemed so out there, and a lot of this probably is a result of marketing, and yeah, I know I probably should have said a little bit about Gremlins on my end because Phoebe Cates is in it. Whoop, 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 whoop. But that's a side story. But yes, I personally haven't seen the film some years back because I never saw it growing up for some reason. I saw Beetlejuice. Go figure. Um, it's it probably didn't need the 15. We've seen awfully silly, is what I'll say.
Yeah,
I can understand why they tweaked out.
there was a hanging and eye popping scene which might have pushed it back then. This was the 80s you're talking about, so maybe it might have been a bit stronger back then. It is now at 12. It's fine at 12. It's fine at 12.
Um, Essentially, with Christmas films, it can run the gamut. I mean, for me, usually the ones that impact me the most aren't the ones that are your bad Santas or office Christmas parties, which are the more sort of adult end of the spectrum. It's actually weirdly enough Snowman and um, Grinch and stuff like that because they're youth certificates. But I've cried so much doing them, I almost view them as 18s just for the emotional intensity alone. How weird is that? Or maybe that's just in my
That's
head.
well, that is a little left field, I will say. That's a little unusual, Mark, but I'm not passing judgment.
Well, I'll put it this way. You could watch, let's say, Silent Night, Deadly Night, and it's got some strong material. That's a Christmas horror film that's quite violent, bloody. I think they took offense to the poster when it came out for its US release. I can have a little laugh at that because it's a cheek, tongue-in-cheek horror film set during the holiday season and not be phased by it. But Snowman is a little too close to home or personal. And we all know that the snowman melts at the end, and it is on a sort of bleak note. That's certainly more impactful to me than more than anything. But on a ratings end, there's nothing really to offend anyone. So that's the weird sort of schism involved. Now, in bringing up with that schism, comes back to another Raymond Briggs TV special that was rated by the BBFC, but I'm not entirely sure about the history behind it called Father Christmas. That one, I remember watching it at primary. They when the people who were showing it weren't too happy about some of the language, from what I was aware, because the character says blooming a lot. Bloomin', 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 which is a euphemism for bloody in British English, in case you're wondering, because bloody doesn't mean anything in American English. And there's some cheeky humor with his bottom, and he gets drunk and hangs around with some showgirls in Vegas. They may not have been too happy about them showing that, but I didn't see what the offense was because he's just said bloomin' all the time.
It does seem a little bit bizarre that they would take umbrage to that. The literally whole point of the word blooming is it's a balderized version of the word bloody, which even when you think about it, is not really a strong word nowadays. I mean, I wouldn't be even back in the day. I swear they could bloody slipped into a U rating, but maybe it didn't actually because I remember 101 Dalmatians had it edited out to get a U rating. So I mean, maybe not.
Nope, you're absolutely right. They did have to tamper with that because they thought the language was a little too rough for the very young. I mean, this is the year we're talking about. Bloody, in case anyone's asking, is sort of goes back to the Christian era of the UK, which many people in Kent, including Mary Whitehouse, would think was the Great Generation, where word bloody is referring to the blood of God, i.e., a minced oath referring to a deity that must not be mentioned or criticized, said in his vein. So it goes back to your grandparents' generation where you couldn't say certain words because it would offend the Lord. So after all, Christmas is a Christian holiday. It just doesn't seem that way because it's very commercial and capitalistic in nature.
Christmas movies and everything. Have you seen any of the Black Christmas films?
No, I'm afraid not, but it is on the more sort of adult end of the spectrum. But yes, there's slasher movies.
Yeah, I haven't seen the original, the 1974 Canadian original with Margot Kidder in. I have seen the 2006, was it, remake, which has Michelle Trachtenberg in it. Uh, that was that was an uncut 15, if I'm not mistaken. Whereas the original one was well cut even for its X or even 18 rating, although I think it like released uncut. Yeah, and of course, the 2006 version, I think it's 2006. I need to double check. It's okay. It's not much to it and everything, but it is miles better than the 2019 remake, uh, which in stateside was rated PG-13, but nonetheless here still had to be rated 15 due to it being a horror film. Even though by even my standards of horror PG-13 is horror films, it is ridiculously tame. Like pretty much every killer's off screen, and there's no visible gore in it at all.
Well, we've talked about this on previous podcasts before, where it makes us. Um, can I just do your voice for a quick second? Hopefully, this won't be offensive. It almost sounds like they're trying to be like old wieners, the BBFC lads and all. Can't even handle a little bit of blood and gore. I don't even like. Makes us even look weak by everyone else's standards.
Well, I guess that's. I didn't realize my West Country accent came through that strong.
No, I just don't for exaggeration, but yeah, I'm personally fine with horror films being 15s in the UK because, in all fairness, in France, most of those types of films, anyways, would probably be 12 plus, or in Germany, 16. So it's kind of a common thread just to assign it a similar type of rating as sees fit. I
I
mean,
still, I think it's. I mean, well, I mean, actually, you know what? You finish what you're saying, and I'll say my piece.
no, I've kind of said what I had to say. I mean, had I seen a movie like 10 Cloverfield Lane at 12, which I didn't, I probably would have been a little bit freaked out or something like that. Because the menace and threat is quite realistic and intense. It's not even like the first Cloverfield film, which was sci-fi alien disaster thing, which you could see in perhaps Independence Day or War of the Worlds, just a little stronger in tone, but it's still the same.
Yeah, well, I've spoken this a lot of time. I've spoken this a few times, and I just don't see the point of them making a film bloody PG-13 rated, just practically neutering it and just editing it down to get and just making it completely innocuous as it is. if it's only just going to get a 15 rating over here anyway. Because that 2019 Black Christmas has like an R-rated version, which is almost 20 minutes longer. And I can almost guarantee if that was sent to the BBFC, that'd been rated 15 as well. So may as well just send us that version.
Well, in all fairness, I believe because I've never seen the Black Christmas films. That 2019 version has rape or sexual violence, which
Yeah,
is
they
certainly
do talk about it.
a big no-no in the UK. Any film that has that sort of thing will usually be at least a 15 minimum.
Oh yeah, I mean, I kind of figured that might have been the reason as well. Uh, I mean, as a quality of a film goes, I mean, the 2019 Black Christmas film is shit, and half the conversations look like they were just taken off of a Twitter argument circa 2015. So I mean, yeah, it was not very well constructed or put together. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I'm just thinking of you mentioned Silent Night, Deadly Night earlier on. I was thinking, hey, Black Christmas. That's another Christmas themed slasher movie. And of course, Silent Night, Deadly Night Part Two was, I think, temporarily banned in the UK
Hmm.
because that's the infamous one with its garbage day uh, meme. That's one where that one comes from. So that I just felt like bringing that up, but I haven't got much else to say about it.
I haven't seen it either. With Christmas movies, I'm still a little bit picky and selective because there's so many to go through, really. Plus the TV specials that always come out every time in November and December. The TV specials in question aren't really much time to write about, except for your snowmans and Father Christmases. And every now and again, even non-denominational stuff like Wallace and Gromit and Shaun the Sheep will sometimes be airing on BBC at around December, just to give you that nostalgic feeling of the qualities of British animation that hails from good old Bristol, right? You all put the old cider.
I mean,
Oh,
should we talk about? Have you seen the new Violent Night film?
unfortunately, because of my schedule, I've been quite busy with things. But there's a possibility I probably won't see it because of what I said about Stranger Things. It may rub me the wrong way because David Harper's in it, but it could be good.
Okay, then. Yeah, it is quite enjoy. It is quite good. I mean, it's not a great film, but it is enjoyable. It's a good a use of an hour 50 minutes. It's just a typical another Die Hard clone, another film we'll be getting to later. Obviously, yeah, it references Die Hard and Home Alone, and the premise is kind of the same. It's just kind of funny. We're seeing Santa Claus, something that's considered whimsical and for kids and everything, and generally considered real in kids' movies, suddenly comes in a sort of die-hard situation in what is very clearly an R/15 rated film. It doesn't really pull many punches around it, especially in terms of language. And the kills can be quite brutal, not excessively such. Obviously, very comedic, but no, it is funny. It's just especially when like John Leguizamo says "bar humbug, motherfucker." That was that was always good.
I should take your word for it. It does sound quite funny in some respects. I think the same guy who did all Dodge Style, which is from Norway, and then Hansel and Gretel's Witch Hunters. So there's
Oh
bound to
yeah,
be some sort of weird tongue-in-cheek element about it. And also, Witch Hunters, Hansel and Gretel was very gory and violent, but it was sort of in a way that most teenagers probably can see through it because it's so ridiculous and silly. The sort of thing that on that Last Days of the Board documentary, which I've been watching religiously over the past few weeks, um, would say I can tell about it because it's not real, isn't it? Unlike Saving Private Ryan, which actually really happened. If you haven't seen that documentary, it's on YouTube for free, and it's got the wonderful, almighty J.F. Furman. Sometimes animation can have its own rear hind legs, I'll say, but it's not really a Christmas film, really, but it's a Hanukkah title, which, how many Hanukkah films do you know about, except for Eight Crazy Nights?
I don't know if there are many Hanukkah themed movies. Not something that's anything in mind. Yeah, I've heard about Eight Crazy Nights, typical bloody Adam Sandler film. I don't
Uh,
know of any others.
because I've never seen ads for that on Cartoon Network of all things. It came out around like late '02. and for some reason they never played it in my area. And that was at a time where I was starting to watch 12 films because the 12 was now becoming advisory if you were your parent. And it pissed me off for all these years that I never got to see Eight Crazy Nights at the cinema. And I'm sure I wouldn't have been phased by it, but I probably would have been a little bit surprised of hearing a cartoon Adam Sandler say about my morning erection. Yeah, automatic ejection. Oh shit! And flipping the bird at an old geezer because he wouldn't let him play basketball and get drunk. It's not really a kids' film, even though, in all fairness, it looks like one. It's a 12A for I think some of its language and sexual references. But I got a kick out of it. I finally got to see it at 14 when I got a DVD for it for some reason from a friend. That made me very happy. But yeah, and well, because we're talking about more adult-oriented Christmas movies, anything that's above a PG, really. I guess we can talk about like Bad Santa, or Office Christmas Party.
I haven't seen either of those two films, to be honest, but I was going to like bring up the age-old question that'll be arranged for time immemorial. Die Hard, is it a Christmas movie?
I don't think it is really. Yes, it uses the theme and the tone of it, but this is one of the weird feelings I have about Christmas movies that are usually aimed at a more mature audience. Who is it aimed at? But Die Hard, on face value and the marketing clearly looks like it's just an action film that could be set really much at any time of the year. So it's not really seasonal specific.
Well, I suppose so. I mean, it does bring a lot of Christmas themes into it, like constantly referring to sorry, what was I going to say? Like, well, constantly referring it to being Christmas and playing like the Christmas song being played on the way in when he's in the car of Argyle. You got any Christmas music? This is Christmas music. And well, I mean, there's also the whole like putting their the Santa hat on the dead terrorist and say, "Now I have a machine gun." Ho ho ho, and I just generally and well, like I say, I mean, it's not like Christmas just the background. It does seem to work its way into the storyline and the overall narrative quite quite a fair bunch.
It is as far as ratings issues are concerned, certainly one of the most unusual because it's they said it was a top end 18 when it first came out to the board, but in all fairness, it's certainly not a top end 18. It's a 15
It's
nowadays.
15. It's a fit. Yeah. I mean, it's quite a
Standard.
hard. It is a hard 15. I mean, when you see like when you there's quite a lot of impact shots and everything, and I remember one scene when he's in that gunfight with Hans, Carl, and two of the other guys, and you see him shooting at the other guy's knees and everything. You see the impact shot on the guy's kneecaps. Yeah, it is quite a strong 15, but yeah, I mean, it certainly was not a hard 18 or anything. I mean, Dean, I mean, it does not require it. Yeah, it is a 15, but most of those action movies that got 18s in the 80s and 90s, yeah, they're 15 by nowadays standards. I mean, it it's just another example of Furman just being a dick.
This podcast right here is brought to you by your Shitty. Try it, Martin, lovely. For that O2 guy, that boy's Sean Bean.
I was gonna.
Leeds.
Sorry to interrupt you, dude. Remember how I mentioned earlier how they celebrate Christmas in Japan, in spite of what John McClane says in Die Hard? And we did a podcast on anime earlier. Have you ever seen Tokyo Godfathers?
Actually, I have. I remember seeing that back at university. My friend's a big fan of Kon Satoshi. That's a 12 certificate from what I'm aware of. I
Yeah,
think mostly because there's some bits of violence and maybe a sex reference or two. It's one of his mildest films.
I haven't seen the rest of his stuff. I mean, so I can't really. I've got no basis for comparison. I just remember it. I did watch it well, quite recently and everything. I thought of it, and I found it a very engaging, very lovely little film. But of course, yeah, that's just reminded me as a Christmas movie, and of course, Christmas anime movie. I don't know what much to take away from it, but I'm just trying to, but I just think of something else to add in because always nice to just suddenly reminded me of it.
Well, you certainly picked a good choice there, because as far as anime films are concerned, Japanese animation doesn't really touch on the Christmas subject a lot, and most anime films are usually PG or U, at least the popular ones are. But to see a 12 certificate animation like that, it certainly raises a few eyebrows and also touches on the issue of homelessness, which I shouldn't be making charity appeals, but is very much a problem no matter what part of the year, and especially at Christmas when people are usually with their families. There's people out on the street who are hungry and can afford to give their loved ones a gift. So I'll be more than happy to send links to charities at the end of this video, as sees fit. So yes, did you see at the Chapter Art Center, the same center where they aired Censor as part of a Q&A?
I I didn't see I didn't go to that, I'm afraid.
Okay, I was just curious because I think they did show Tokyo Godfathers at the Chapter Art Center, and I think it was for free. It was for like 6 or 4 quid. So I thought, oh man, I wish I was there, but I had to be with family, so I couldn't make the commitment to see you again up in Cardiff. But don't worry, the time will come again. Um,
Okay. Well, you're welcome to come back up here and everything. I'm just thinking of most Christmas movies uh fall into what we refer to as comedy and everything because of the lightheartedness and everything. Probably the worst Christmas movie I can come to mind I would have seen, that suddenly comes to my mind, is going to be Jingle All the Way.
Most people I know love that movie. The
Uh,
person who interviewed for NC-17 podcast, he's obsessed over that movie. I've never seen it, so I can't speak for
I
him.
have I have seen it. I didn't. Jingle All the Way is a bit of a bit of a crass commercial uh, commercialist propaganda. I don't know what term I'm going to use, but it's very crass with its promotion of commercialism, especially uh, with the boy from Phantom Menace basically constantly badgering his dad to get him the Turbo Man doll, and Phil Hartman's character, rest in peace, constantly hitting on Arnie's wife, and there's a basically the message seems to be is you can always buy your love and ever your family's love by making if you miss their karate tournaments and everything, don't worry, just go out and buy them an action figure and everything will be right.
Well, in all fairness, that's a message that would not work in underdeveloped countries, but in the
I don't
sort
think it should work anywhere.
the first world, they dig it. I mean, I was there in Cardiff around November, just when the Christmas sales were kicking off. It was packed at the works in WH Smith. I couldn't believe it. And people don't buy books. They don't. People are literate. They don't read. But it was packed. So I kind of get where you're at with your statement.
Yeah, of course, probably one of the best Christmas comedies. Well, you might like Scrooge and everything. I think Scrooge is all right, but I'm going to go for National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Oh, where she does the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag instead of
Mhm.
the Lord's Prayer, doing the Christmas table, and the guy was looking at the woman's legs. That's as far as I remember on that one. I know
I just remember.
that one's PG, but Vacation was 15 or it was R-rated, so that's a bit of a big
No,
gap.
I don't think it is. I think National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is well, it's 12A now, but I think it was cut down to get a PG. I think it was PG stateside. It certainly was not ever R-rated. There is one use of the fuck, which I remember basically when Chevy Chase's character has his breakdown later on when he's having his we're gonna have a happiest time speech, which is the bit that basically the bit that always sticks most in my mind. But it is a brilliant flick. But then again, Chevy Chase is just a great comedic actor. Like I say, I one of the first he was in the Memoirs of Invisible Man, which is one of the first movies I saw at the cinema, and he'll always be a great. It's amazing how he can be so great comedic when he always plays everything so straight and so deadpan. Sounds like such a serious bloke, but uh, he's got great comedic chops. But I'm getting aside myself.
Well, some actors are a little like that. They're a bit unassuming, but they can certainly make you chuckle. This may not be politically correct to say nowadays, but Bill Murray's kind of like that. Who they were both alumni on Saturday Night Live, which is a popular sketch troupe in the United States. He's kind of has a sort of dull face, but he can crack a smile or two. But yeah, he's a bit disgraced nowadays because of the sexual harassment and violent behavior that he's been alleged for. So, sorry, you just made me
I
think
mean,
of Bill Murray for a second. So I thought,
well, he's in Scrooge, isn't he? And if he's done what he's been accused of, then fuck the guy. I mean, that's very shit of him. But but I mean, yeah, well, fuck that guy if he's been sexually harassing people, and that's all that's said about that.
and he's got a
Scrooge,
temper.
well, yeah, he didn't get along well with Lucy Liu on the set of Charlie's Angels, from what I hear. That's why he didn't come back for the sequel. But then, well, that's what he does. Right? If he's a dick, he's a dick. I wouldn't have much to say to him. But we talk about good Christmas comedy movies, and we've got to talk about the National Lampoons and everything. Of course, I remember two really shit family Christmas comedy movies that are out. Deck for Halls and Christmas with the Cranks. I haven't seen either. I know to just see either of them but seen reviews of them, and they are just absolutely the worst kind of cinema ever. Have you seen either of them?
Unfortunately, I have Christmas with the Cranks #5 on my list. It's just before Eight Crazy Nights, but after Home Alone. Don't ask as to why I like that movie, but it's probably because I like Santa Claus, Disney's Tim Allen piece that he did, I think, a little before, after Toy Story. But Tim Allen, for all of his problems with his drug habits and whatnot and his conservative policies, I actually think he's hilarious. He kind of plays this sort of, straight, all American happy guy. I'm Tim the Tall Man. I'm Buzz Lightyear. So it's a standard PG. I think it's mainly because there's some bits of bad language that you probably otherwise wouldn't hear on daytime television. Hell, damn, maybe an ass or two. Crap. Nothing
Well, I
out of
do
the
understand what
ordinary.
you
I think Deck
that.
the Halls, that one's one I think is not too bad. I haven't seen it in ages, really. I saw that with my father, and all I could just remember was some bit about fireworks, which probably got the PG because of dangerous behavior. You can't show kids playing with fireworks.
Well, it'd probably been PG anyway. I don't think it would have been it would hardly be a U or G rated either side of the Atlantic. I mean, I don't think anyone would expect it to be. Um, so,
Well,
hey, also, is Hook a Christmas film?
not that I'm aware of. Hold on, the thought. Okay, breaking news bulletin, breaking news bulletin. I just got word about Portugal losing for the World Cup. So it looks like Morocco's
No
going to advance.
fucking way.
Yeah, this is the BBC World News bringing to you live as we speak. Portugal has just lost one of the big players.
Oh,
Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry, BBC Sports say the game isn't over yet, but I mean, well, let's get one. But well, yeah. Well, of course, Morocco are doing amazingly in this tournament. It's just gobsmacked.
Well, I'm just doing that for humor for everyone because I'll probably edit a few things, but yes, it almost appears as though they're probably going to advance. Some of the teams that have been doing so good are the ones that you don't expect because they don't have quite the capital that the European teams can afford. And that's a family member of mine saying, and that helps England.
Well, yeah, if we can beat France today, but uh, yeah, well, we'll see what happens with that. In the meantime, shall we get back to the topic at hand?
Oh yes, of course. There. I'm sorry to get you off there, but we're quite relaxed on here,
You
and
didn't.
we.
You didn't. You did not get me off, mate. Don't worry about that.
Oh no, yeah, most people are football fans in the UK, so I kind of have to do that
Okay, I
for
think.
everyone. It's
I
not like
think.
I'm talking about NFL or something.
I think you might have missed my double entendre I was putting into that, but never mind.
No fear, no fear. As far as
I wouldn't mind. Sorry, you keep. Sorry, were you about to say something?
well, I was just about to talk about The Miracle Maker. That's an animated film that I can think of. That's also Christmas season. That, oddly enough, is quite open with its religious messaging. You don't necessarily have to be a man of the cloth or someone who goes every Sunday or even 7 days like the Adventists do to actually enjoy it. It is a U certificate stop motion um, Christian animation about the birth and resurrection of Jesus, and it actually still received it despite showing scenes of in moments of crucifixion and I think some bloody detail. I don't know what the policies are quite on that sort of thing. All I'm aware of was that back in the day, I think you couldn't show anything that was too blasphemous, otherwise it would be cut. But that one still managed to test as it was because it was made with the intention to appeal to the Christian audience and still got the U certificate probably on that merit alone. On the opposite end, you got Passion of the Christ, but that got an 18. That's more of an Easter type of film.
It certainly is an Easter film. That's well, I mean, it's about the Passion, so it's about Easter. Um, so yeah, I mean, you're kind of yeah, I guess you're on right there. Sorry, what the hell did you say the previous film was called?
It's called The Miracle Maker, and it had
Ah, Miracle Maker.
Ray Fiennes as the voice of Jesus.
Yeah, I've just
Jesus
found it on
Christ.
IMDb. Oh, it's U rated.
Yeah, even with scenes of crucifixion and torturing of dissidents. But I guess because of the animation and the religious context, they went easy on this. It kind of came on the cusp between the Furman and Duval days. So yeah, I could see that there. They were a little bit more easygoing with you films back in the day. Sometimes
It's
I'm
certainly,
nostalgic for that period.
it's certainly, well, yeah, they certainly were. Let's not. We've, I think we've covered that ad infinitum in a minute, and all that. I mean, it's certainly a lot more lenient at you. I could go on the list of films that rate PG states over rated U here, but let's not get aside ourselves because I wanted to bring up because we said Gremlins was a Christmas movie, we said Home Alone was a Christmas movie, you said Die Hard probably wasn't. I reckon it is. We're never going to agree on that one, and I don't think we come to a conclusion. I'm going to willing go out on a limb here and guess that you also don't think Lethal Weapon is a Christmas movie.
I I'm sorry, I just don't. But then again, I think Nightmare Before Christmas is both a Christmas and a Halloween film. But we'll talk about that in a moment. But Lethal Weapon is not one that comes to mind, I'm afraid.
uh, Back in 2003, we had not one but two Christmas movies that came out that have become holiday classics now. Uh, One of them,
Oh,
most maybe, Love Actually, of which I still to this day haven't seen, and of course, Elf.
I wish I brought those up a little bit earlier. But yep, Love Actually is one of those films that almost anyone who's a British female, even under the age of 15, has probably seen by now because they always air it. I don't quite understand the appeal behind that film, but it's got the multi-linear narrative, kind of like Pulp Fiction, and it's so joyful. It's got all the famous people in there. I'm not surprised people love it. I particularly like that scene with Rowan Atkinson as the jeweler or person like the watch store at Selfridges.
You're
Put on
breaking up a
an
little bit.
accent, a little bit. Oh, it was just me talking about Rowan
Sorry, I
Atkinson.
didn't quite catch that.
It was just me talking about Rowan Atkinson
Rowan
from
Atkinson in what?
Love Actually.
What film? Oh,
Love
like
Actually.
I haven't seen it, so I mean I can't really comment too much on it. Um, but safe to say, what are we safe to say?
Well, it's a
So yeah, I
15,
mean
mostly because
it's
there's
hard.
language and sex references, but I know many people under 15 who saw it.
Yeah, well, I can imagine it's a 15 the same level that Bridget Jones's Diary and Four Weddings and a Funeral are 15s. Not for any particular violence or anything, just because they don't hold back. They're not afraid to drop the F bomb when necessary, and of course that adds the number of F bombs up. So of course, yeah, 15. Same with Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion. I know that's not a Christmas movie; and it's getting veering off topic, but they only say the word "fuck" 11 times. But that's too much for a 12A or a PG-13, so it's R/15, even though the film is ridiculously tame.
Unfortunately, that happens a lot, especially with some of the old school comedies, sometimes even dramas. You get that every once now and again. It's got what I would consider with Love Actually. I'm sure probably with King's Speech, because it's rated R in the US. These are 15 and R-rated films that essentially have Matrix syndrome. Kids have seen it, their parents have seen it, even their grandparents. So it kind of plays almost in many ways like a PG type of film, even though it's certainly not.
You can say the same about Terminator 2. I just seem to be randomly naming Christmas movies now, which I seem to do on every podcast. I just randomly name a movie without really elaborating on it.
It's
Because
fine.
have you seen Batman Returns?
Unfortunately, I haven't, and that's a bit of a shame because I do like Tim Burton's earlier works quite a lot, but that's one I have not seen, I'm afraid.
Right. I mean, it's not as good as the first Batman. I mean, it's a bit hit and miss here and there. He does go a little bit overboard with his Tim Burton-esque stuff with it. Um, yeah, but it is certainly it's dark and morbid elements tend to push. But yeah, that's set during Christmas, so it could be considered a Christmas movie. I mean, the Yuletide celebrations are mentioned throughout the movie, and of course, because it's always snowing and everything. Well, Tim Burton loves to have his snowy things. I think he just had it set during Christmas just so he could make a live action Nightmare Before Christmas and everything. Because sometimes when you look at the sets, it just seems like that. But no, I mean it's set during Christmas, and it certainly has Christmas themes to it. So your mileage may vary. I'm thinking I might be willing to count it.
I'll take your word for it, as it is. As far as I know about the history on that one, not so much the Christmas thing, but because it alternated between 12 and 15 because there was no 12 certificate for VHS release until '94. So it was always to me like a 15 type of film, especially when they showed like the clip of Michelle Pfeiffer in S&M gear for some reason. A brief flash of it, and it was promoting the 15 warning on the VSC tapes. Like, if your 15 certificate may contain a fairly adult theme, and it's shown her face on the circle, and then the 15 flashes up with another clip from Demolition Man. So that's at least my earliest memory of that. And it was from a VHS title called Swordfish. What do you think about Rare Exports, which is from Finland, or
I
Krampus?
I've seen Krampus. It's okay. I mean, I thought it was quite nice and everything. It's been a while since I've seen it. I've only seen it once. I can't. I saw and I watched the Doug Walker's review of it as a nostalgia critics. I think it. Well, I thought it was all right. I mean, as typically, I mean, PG-13 stateside, but still a 15 here. Which, again, I know we've talked about this. We don't see eye to eye now. I just when something gets a higher rating here, it does in another country, and it gets a higher rating it does in America. It pisses me off because I feel a little bit embarrassed by it because it's just like, well, why is our films rating board being stricter than theirs? It makes us look a bit, weak and pearl clutchy and hysterical. But I mean, as a movie goes, it was quite good. I mean, and I couldn't find any fault with it. I just didn't think it was great or anything.
I mean, I appreciate the badass attitude sometimes they have on certain titles. Although it does make me wonder at times because a lot of 18 films are rated R, which meant I would have been able to see it even under the age of 17. Which makes me think, I kind of missed out on watching Pulp Fiction behind my parents' back when that came out, or RoboCop or something. I didn't see those, unfortunately, until I was like 20 and 21, so I was quite late in my life. I'm ashamed to
Wait,
say.
well, he didn't have an older a brother who's 7 years older than you, who had who had a friend's godfather who'd usually buy him uh 15 and 18 rated videos when he was long before he could buy them, so I could watch them with his friends when parents weren't seeing. Which of course results in me watching RoboCop when I'm about, I think, six. I was about six actually.
I still feel a bit sorry for you about that movie, having seen it that young because of that pivotal scene where a man is shot to death and his arm and hand is blown off. Oh,
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that. It took me 8 years before I could bring myself to rewatch RoboCop again. But ever since that time, I've found it just a movie I keep going back to because it is such a good movie. But that's neither here nor there.
I mean,
Um,
I'm the
we
same
did, we
way
did,
with even some 15 titles. I've talked to
well,
you ad infinitum about Splice and Elf and Lead and how much those disturbed me. Even Watchmen, that was 18, that disturbed me.
yeah, you did mention because I just want to go back to because you talked a lot about a Love Actual and everything, but we didn't elaborate. We didn't talk much about Elf, which I'm surprised no one. I mean, I don't suppose there's much to really talk about Elf.
Well,
I actually saw that one at the cinema because me and two of my friends, while we are at a uni, decided, oh, let's go take in a film, and it's like, oh, just go see Elf and everything. So we decided to see that, and yeah, I thought it was alright. I think Will Ferrell does a reasonably good performance in it. James Caan's performance is great.
that's actually a movie alongside Bad Santa. Unfortunately, I've said this probably in my last podcast. A certain family member of mine loved so much that I kind of grew out of it and said, I don't want to like it anymore. Because a certain someone is obsessed with that movie. I don't know for whatever reason it is, but yeah, it has its funny moments, especially when I first saw it. The only thing I sort of remember in my filthy little imagination was watching Zoe Deschanel showering and then Will Ferrell singing "Maybe It's Cold Outside," and then he's caught. That's the scene I
Yeah.
remember the most. And then Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones has said, "Call me Elf one more time."
Oh
And,
yeah. Long before he became a household name and everything. So, there's
and
part of me just thinks, yeah, that shouldn't be because it's not very politically correct or anything, making comments about a little person like that. Also, it's not probably not politically correct him being in the room where Zoe Deschanel was showering without her knowing. Then again, she was singing "It's Cold, Baby, It's Cold Outside," which, on analysis, is a little bit of a problematic song. But I don't want to get overly PC or anything. It's not making comments. But that
well, we've
scene
got to
where
appeal
just
to the Joe Rogan fans. They hate the left. They hate us.
yeah, well,
Well,
fuck Joe Rogan and
let's
fuck
talk
everything.
about.
Fuck Joe Rogan and fuck his fans. Right? That guy thinks ivermectin could cure COVID. So fuck that guy. He's a dick. He doesn't
I'll,
know what the fuck he's talking about.
I even mentioned about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and how that for some reason that's offensive because it discriminates against a child who has a red nose and they're discriminating against the poor little Blitzen, Vixen, whatever, whose nose is blinking, but the other reindeer's noses aren't. But that's a U certificate, so I don't think there's much harm to write home about except for perhaps the other U
I
certificate
don't
film
think.
about reindeers called Robbie the Reindeer, which is actually not an Aardman production. It's actually from BBC Bristol, right there. And I think it had a few like a use of the word hell, which I always thought was a PG type of word, but it's actually a U certificate word. It's considered very mild. And I think there was a reindeer female character that had babies.
Well, I
Which
mean,
okay,
ET
maybe
was a
that's a bit
U.
sexualized.
ET was a U rating. That's got penis and shit and douchebag in it.
Well, E.T.'s a much stronger title. I don't think that's appropriate at you because of the
Not,
language.
nor do I.
I probably should have mentioned about Krampus and rare exports. So I know both of those are 15s, but in all fairness, they're very mild, very marginal 15s, I would say, mainly because I think of a bit of threat. And it's got quite a dark tone, but it's nothing out of the ordinary that you probably would not see in something, let's say, like a Tim Burton. It's a
No,
slightly
I mean,
darker than a Tim Burton.
well, yeah, I mean, like I say, Krampus was rated PG-13 stateside, although rare exports got an R rating. So I mean,
But there was
it's,
also quite a bit of nudity as well involving Santa Claus. You actually see his manhood,
and
but
there's
it's not sexualized.
and there are two F words, so probably that helped the irk the MPAA to give it an R rating. Uh, yeah, make of that what you will.
Well, I personally didn't agree with their assessment on it, but I understand given a fully naked Santa sitting around, you can see his jaw is sausage and egg in long shot. Yeah, I would be a little bit irked by that too. I thought, okay, that's probably why it's a 15, but it actually was a 15 because a strong threat. And also, in all fairness, who's going to watch it anyways? It's a Finnish language horror film. That's a very limited audience, except for metal fans and people who like Scandi cinema.
Last Christmas, starring Emilia Clarke.
Oh, you saw it because you fancy her, don't you?
Well,
And
of course,
you're jealous that
who the hell doesn't?
um um she's not my type really, but no offense to those who like her, but I all I'm aware of is that it's got a lot of Wham songs. George Michael.
Oh
And
yeah. Well, obviously, I
she
mean,
has
it's
cancer.
called Last Christmas. No, well, she'd had been involved in a car collision a few years back, or a year back, and had to have a heart replaced, and it was like a heart donation. So last Christmas, I gave you my heart and all that shit. Yeah, I probably just gave away the twist that comes through the film later on, but most people figured the twist out anyway.
Well, I kind of figured there. A lot of those types of movies probably would play well on television because well, I was in America at the time. There's a tradition of playing like made-for-TV Christmas movies, which involve romance and people falling in love. That seems to be quite a thing. And a lot of these movies are pretty vanilla. It's mostly just a bit of sexual innuendo and maybe some bits of language, but nothing you probably would not see in a PG or at a stretch of 12. And it's a big market, I think, probably because of Love Actually capitalizing on that sort of phenomenon of love during the holiday season. Oh,
Well, yeah, these films usually are quite schmaltzy and everything. They like to get they like sorry, I'll start again. Yeah, they're quite schmaltzy. They like to get all the emotions running to because that's when people are feeling that all like that is during the Christmas season. Just realized there are a lot of slasher movies centered around murderous Santa Claus
they
because
must
there's
be like
Christmas
straight to
Evil.
DVD releases because I sometimes see a lot of those as well, like Killer Santa or Krampus Unleashed. Some of those are actually 18s, and I'm sometimes wonder at myself who exactly is this aimed for? Because I was always growing up, and I said this earlier on that most Christmas films I was aware of were mostly for families, and the ones that were sort of aimed at a more mature audience, like Bad Santa, were sort of few and far between. But I was wrong because one of the most successful Christmas movies is the 15. It's Love Actually, and then Office Christmas Party. They play that every year. That's a 15. That's very crude. So and then Die Hard, people love that. That's used to be an 18, now 15. So I guess my head must be stuck in the sand a little bit because I'm under the assumption that if it's Christmas, it has to be for a family audience. I must
Yeah,
be
I
a bit
think
delusional.
a little bit, yeah, because like I say, that Violent Night that just came out recently, it's clearly not for a family audience. It's clearly for a more mature audience, and it's
Well,
definitely made that way.
when you saw it, was there look like some little uns sneaking in, or was it mostly just people your age and teenagers?
Well, probably a bit younger than me. I am 37 after all, but I don't see any little ones sneaking in. I don't know if kids even bother doing that nowadays. It's like, why bother? It's just going to be out streaming in due time. No,
Oh,
I can't remember who was in there. But it seemed to be mostly grown-ups, maybe some younger people, but I didn't see any underage. I don't think I saw any teenagers in there. At least not that I can remember. I think there might have been some people in there who looked maybe late teens and everything, but they didn't stay in there very long. They fucked off quite quickly, and to be honest, good rinse to them because they were being very disruptive.
Well, if you've paid good money, because in Cardiff the cinema tickets are cheap, but imagine going to London doing that, where you could see ticket costs at 11 or £14. Shame on you. You stayed during the whole duration. You enjoyed the movie. If you don't know enough, you're a tosser. I will say on a side note, I don't know if this is Christmas related. We've all heard about the controversy behind Prince Harry and Duchess Meghan.
Well,
Well,
kind of, yeah.
I don't know if you want to put your thoughts on it a little bit. I'm going to include it in this podcast just because there has been so much talk about it that I kind of have to be compelled to discuss it on my end because we did do one on Netflix and they did release Harry and Meghan, which is a docu-series about their relationship with the monarchy and
I
press.
I don't, to be honest, dude. To be honest, I don't really have much to say. I don't really be following what's going on, and yeah, I don't really have any take in it. Sorry to say. I mean, I don't really care much for monarchy. I am a out and out Republican in the UK sense. So I mean, don't know why we still have the monarchy. We'd like to see them go away, but I mean, I kind of like the fact that Harry relinquished his royal title. But other than that, I've got nothing else to say about it.
Same on my end here. My mother, she watches a lot of the stuff. She's not a monarchist either, but she is watching a lot of the Harry and Meghan stuff because it's really just pushing it out there. It's almost making me think because I don't think they're doing it just to get a rile at Kate and William and King Charles. I know it's a bit weird to say King Charles. I'm used to saying Queen Elizabeth, but yeah. Um, I'm glad they're living on their life. I think cutting ties is probably the best thing they could do. Hopefully, I would assume it helps to save taxpayers money because enough British people already broke at their sort of 22,000 or less per year type of jobs, and inflation rising up. They could do with a little less aggro from some upper class toffs. But all they can moan and bitch about is King Charles not being able to use a fountain pen. Because I know the Christmas season is also the time of year where we get presents and gifts from family members or even friends. I'm sure what this may be a little side off topic, but what is the most memorable gift you ever received? This could be a movie or a toy or God knows what.
They're asking. Oh, I I I don't know. I suppose one thing that really sticks in my mind is, but it's not for a good reason. If you talk about memorable, as in it, I won't forget ever having it. But again, it's not for good reason. Was this cookie jar I had in the shape of a knight, and every time you opened it up, it had a novelty. It basically said, "Keep thy grubby hands out of thy cooking jar." Then there'd be a sound and a, a sort of grunting, groaning sound, like sort of sound, which is funny as fuck the first time we heard it. But yeah, in that it's open, it does it every time the lid opens and everything. The novelty wears off really quickly, and so to me and to everyone around me, it was just a constant source of a uh, constant source of irritation. Um, that's a yeah, that's about all I've got. I can't just trying to think of all the presents I've got over the years of Christmas, and usually it's always something like, oh, I want this for Christmas, I want this for Christmas, that for Christmas. It's like whatever was like popular, whatever time being, or something I just at a whim saw in a bloody catalog or something. But and I'm excited as shit when I first see it, but yeah, then later on I just it's just what a year later I've almost forgot had it or anything. So I I can't really say if anything. It really just remembers find most to be most memorable probably would be the that cookie jar I was on about.
Hmm. Well, I don't think I've ever owned something like that in my lifetime. All my biscuit jars were quite ordinary, but that one sounds quite funny. If you still have it,
I don't think I
more
do
than happy
have
to
it.
get it for you at I don't know if you're selling it.
I I don't know if I still have it anywhere. I mean, probably got it somewhere in my own on my folks' place, basically gathering dust somewhere. But or we might have given it away to a charity jumble sale or something. But I mean, it'd be a curse, mate. I know it sounds funny and it sounds awesome what it does, and yeah, everyone I showed it to at first thought it was awesome until the umpteenth time they'd bloody heard it, and the novelty completely wore off.
I think that's part of the problem with sometimes gifts you can get from Argos. I should know. I used to get stuff from the Argos catalog. After a certain point, you're just like, okay, here we go. Can I get the next thing? Especially if you talk to all these upper class kids and stuff. Um, they play the next PS2 game and then they want the next one. And back then, PS2 games were like about 54, 49.99. That was not cheap. And they're just like spoiled blade brats is what they are.
I do
I
remember.
certainly wasn't. I was grateful for getting Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2005. I remember getting that around Christmas, and I also got a lot of 12 Peggy 12 type of games, which I thought, oh, I'm a bit sneaky. Oh, and I wasn't even quite 12 when I got them. And then came a time where I just stopped playing video games really, and I just didn't own anything that was above a Peggy 12. I was almost going to
I
get full of Juarez, which was 16, but I didn't.
I just suddenly remembered actually something that well, two Christmases are quite memorable. I remember at Christmas '93, my parents bought me the Jungle Book on video, the original. I watched that enough times, and I was making comparisons for Lion King when that came out the following year. But also Christmas 1994, I got Jurassic Park on video. I can't believe how long that took to come out on video. And of course, oh boy, I must have watched that so many times. I mean, I'd seen it at the cinema and everything, and when it came out to rent on video, I briefly rented it. But when it finally came out on a VHS, I just watched it so many times. I mean, I think the rest of my family must have got just absolutely exasperated, finding me watching it for like the umpteenth time.
Uh-oh, you're tapping into a certain core of me. Oh no, oh dear. Yeah, I used to do that with Toy Story a lot, and Men in Black, Small Soldiers, with Scissorhands, Help 'em a Fish, Monsters Inc., Ants, Bugs Life. Yeah, those were movies I watched so many times I almost thought the tape was gonna wear out. Even my Simpsons VHS, I think one of the first ones, because I remember seeing it back in '99 or maybe '98 when my parents allowed me to watch it because it was it was PG stuff guy and it had the word hell on the VHS, which I thought, oh, that was a bit dangerous of me to do that. That was back in '98, and that made me very happy. And it actually did wear a little bit thin. I think I got that for Christmas, and some of the dialogue you couldn't really hear it because the tape fibers kind of wore a little bit thin because of overuse, which was a bit funny if you put it in hindsight. But those are some nostalgic memories I have as far as getting films and stuff are concerned. I'm sure when you got Jurassic Park on VHS, it made you feel like you were a little bit naughty because that was a PG film that was quite violent and scary, and also
Well,
had the word
again,
strong on the content advice on the back.
it's not. I'd already seen it the previous year at the cinema when I was 8. I mean, we know it was a P. We understood that the PG was generally for uh by the time you're like 8 or beyond, or 7 or beyond, you can handle PG rated films. But yeah, it didn't really make me feel naughty. I understood what I was watching. I mean, my dad had taken me to see Jurassic Park. I'd seen it. It was about dinosaurs. It was cool. So I was 9 when I received it on video, and I was pushing 10. So there was nothing there for me to be concerned about. Well,
Oh, you're a little bit different from me in that respect. So, anytime I got like sometimes even some of the hard PGs, like the Mask, for example, my parents were a little bit cautious about me watching that one when they taped it on TV because of some of the sexual innuendo and the violence. But
my
they
parents took
relaxed.
my parents took me to see that when I was 9. So
Hey, more power to you. I must have seen it. It aired on BBC One or Two, and it must have been like in '97 or '98. And I certainly was not 10 at the time that happened. I know, yes, to everyone who's listening, I'm old. I'm certainly older than Pete Davidson and Harry Styles, but I'm not as old as Rob or Shia LaBeouf or Frankie Muniz. I know. Sue me.
Yeah, or Gal Gadot or anything. Anywho, have we come to have we con have we brought this topic to its conclusion, do you reckon? I mean, this podcast?
As far as I'm concerned, I would say yes, because we talked about a lot of films that influenced us as far as the Christmas season was concerned. Um, I could have probably gone on a little bit about Muppets Christmas Carol, but that's not a film I talk about as much anymore. So that's why I kind of included the Prince Harry, Meghan Markle bit, and then also the bit about what Christmas gifts have you received when you were a child, because it all kind of pertains to, you know, when in the last days of the year, you get excited for things that you probably shouldn't have. I remember when I was a child, well, sorry, not a child, when I was 13 or 14, I asked my parents to get me Nautica's Blitz Tactics of Elfin Lead on DVD, but that became a resounding no because of the content. So I managed to just get it on Love Film instead and be a bit naughty that way, or watch the latter show on Anime Network on Propeller TV late at night at 9:30. So yeah, I was a bit of a badass, I'll say. And it relates to
You
rating.
rebel.
I know. Oh. But as far as other matters concerned, I'm not that much rebellious. I'm a bit too conservative for some people's liking. Not in a political sense, but just in I'm too scared and timid. But yeah, I think that kind of finishes off really, and I'll probably edit everything up. And overall, it's been nice to talk with you.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm glad to do it as well. I'm alwait's glad. It's been nice. It's been an absolute blast.